The views expressed, opinions given, and any communication made between the hosts and guests of What Are You Afraid of Horror and Paranormal Show do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of Para-X Radio, EMC Network, or all services that play this show. The hosts and services are not responsible for the actions of their guests, and the original rights of all intellectual property is retained by the creator, and all work is used with either permission or Creative Commons license. The show is for entertainment purposes only.
Episode 61 of What Are You Afraid of? Horror and Paranormal Show, Pennhurst Asylum. And we are recording tonight on location at Pennhurst.
We are at Pennhurst.
You know, so at least we got that far. Do you like my mask?
I love it.
Nevermore, but we are doing our countdown to Halloween. You having a good Halloween so far?
I'm having a great Halloween.
And I just picked up the DVD collection of Tales from the Dark Side. You know Tales from the Dark Side?
I love Tales from the Dark Side. I love it.
It was a show, and you know, as a kid I watched it, and it wasn't very, I like the scary stuff, but as an adult watching it,
okay,
I'm seeing some very important themes throughout the show. The subjects always seem to be two things. Either it's a white middle-class family.
Oh, yeah.
The father goes to work all day, comes home, the mother is wearing heels and in some kind of dress, she's a housewife,
right.
There are two young kids, and it's a very classic 1950s family.
Right.
And then one of them kills the whole family, turns into a monster, like the one with the dollhouse, they all get trapped, the Wiesenstacks.
Right.
They all get trapped in the dollhouse. Either that, or it's some yuppie living a materialistic lifestyle that something happens to.
Right.
And if you watch all the episodes, this is 80% of the content. And I think that horror really was this way of attacking this prison, this social prison that people felt.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
I do.
It's always about the destruction of the idea of the 1970s, 1950s white middle-class family.
It's definitely a product of its time. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because I like things like that.
Right.
And I'm a bit jealous because I would really like all those seasons too. I do have the best of Tales from the Dark Side though.
Yeah.
Which is about 10, 15 episodes.
Okay.
So I have a best of collection of it, but I don't have what you've got. So
yeah, well, you can borrow mine.
yeah, I mean I'll check them out when you're done with them.
Yeah.
And I've been watching a little Ray Bradbury too.
You've been watching Ray Bradbury
Yeah,
Theater. I showed
yeah.
you that was on Amazon.
Yeah, I watched the first season.
Yeah. Fall House Usher 2 was called. Great episode.
Oh, yeah?
From the Martian Chronicles.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was watching the one with Drew Barrymore, which was pretty good.
Sure.
And Jeff Goldblum. I don't remember this one where he gets off the train of a town that no one gets off of. Remember that one?
Yes, I do.
You remember?
They're all dead, aren't they? It was
No,
another one.
they're not all dead,
Yeah.
but no one wants to talk to him. And there was somebody waiting at the train station for 20 years for someone to get off the train to kill them.
Episode 61.
That's right.
Pennhurst Asylum.
Pennhurst Asylum.
We are semi-live.
Yes.
This will be very fresh. But we are here tonight. Crowds look great, don't they?
Oh yeah. There's a lot of people.
A lot of people. And we just went through the attractions.
Yeah, you guys went through, yeah.
Yeah, you were asking us what we thought.
How was it?
Fascinating.
Yeah?
They have really upped their game.
Okay.
We went through, and I was sort of expecting what they did last year, but they've added a ton of new special effects. The first one we went through was the hospital itself. A lot of medical people, a lot of patients, getting to the gate, screaming at people, help me, doctors wanting to do experiments on us. So it's much like my modern medical life. I've had this experience in real life, so I felt very at home.
You've written a book about
Mercy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mercy, which is on sale now from Amazon.com, from Bloodbound Books, my story of the visceral feeling of what it's like to go through the violation of medical treatment.
So being in a place like this, it must really feel like close to home.
I talked to Allison about that. It was like, oh, yeah, I've been there, pal, done that. In fact, the second one you go through, like down to the tunnels, or maybe the third one, but there's some kind of radiation leak in the cryogenics chambers. You didn't see this. So you're actually walking through and seeing all these cryogenic chambers. Yeah. It was like, and then people had escaped from them, but it was very high-tech horror sci-fi. You don't see that. So you had all these chambers, you had all these monitors, like, spinning and alarms going off. It was like being in a real laboratory.
Really?
You're going to love it.
I can't wait. I'm doing them all next week.
You are just going to love it. Yeah, definitely do them next week. We'll be up next week. Yeah. We're collecting ghost stories and talking to people.
Now, if you remember last year when we went through everything, they touched you and they grabbed. Did anyone touch you or grab you tonight?
This time, yeah.
They did.
In fact, this one guy grabbed me and pulled me right up.
You got pulled to another room last year.
We got a video. Hi, guys. We're at Pennhurst. Check out the website at www.whatareyouafraidofpodcast.com for an archive of ghost stories and all of our previous shows. We've done 61.
Yes.
This is 61, Pennhurst Asylum, part of our countdown to October, Halloween. And can you believe this? Monday and Tuesday. Monday, we are interviewing Katrina Weidman from Paranormal Lockdown on Destination America. And she was on Paranormal State. She's a Philadelphia girl.
That's right.
And she's one of the foremost ghost hunters out there, and she will be on the show.
That's gonna be a great show.
Right. And then on Tuesday, we are visiting with Lloyd Kaufman.
Mr. Trauma himself.
Trauma Enterprises himself.
Quality warning. This podcast often records in the field to gather the best in paranormal materia from witnesses. Often, we cannot control the quality of sound in this environment, such as you may hear distortions or perhaps the occasional moaning. But then again, we're not about control, are we?
Embrace the chaos!
We've all experienced messages from beyond the silver veil, whether we want to admit it or not. Some people take no notice, ignoring these outreaches. Others embrace them, seeing them as evidence of an expanded universe. Whether these stories frighten or comfort, we are reassured.
The mission of What Are You Afraid Of? Horror and Paranormal Show is to explore the dark side through paranormal investigation, folklore, and the arts. The show is an audio magazine. We share true ghost stories, dark fiction, interviews with ghost hunters and indie authors, filmmakers, artists, and musicians. We discuss industry issues and offer support. We have a unique and varied theme that creates a show unlike others.
Our weekly show is featured on all major podcast services, including iHeartRadio, iTunes, and YouTube. We are a part of ParaX Radio.
We need your true ghost experiences, so write them down in an email, preferably under 2,000 words, which comes to about 3 or 4 typed pages, and send them to whatareyouafraidof117@gmail.com. Please don't attach them as a file. And don't worry about trying to write like Charles Dickens. Just tell us your story as if you were telling a friend. And if you're not sure if it's actually a ghost story or not, but it's still weird, send it anyway. Also send us your photos, EVPs, recipes, your thoughts, and any artwork.
Check out our website at www.whatareyouafraidofpodcast.com for our ghost story archives, articles, photos, and expanded material. And you can buy t-shirts, mugs, laptop covers, and animals apparently with our logo on it. Follow us at Twitter at PFWhatAfraidOf. That's PFWhatAfraidOf.
You cannot escape the darkness, so explore it with us now at
What Are You Afraid Of?
You walk through and you see like the smoke, and you can see images, and your mind is building up apprehension.
Yeah.
So by the time they jump out at you, you've already done half the fear work.
Right.
For
the
them.
scariest thing is the unknown, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And because you're expecting something to happen. Yeah, that's gonna be a good time. But that's yeah, great. So we're having fun tonight. So we'll continue with the show, and we are going to start with an interview that I did, part 1, with Jim Werner, who's the operations manager here, and he talked about the history of Pennhurst and how this isn't meant to be a critique of the history. It's just meant to be fun in a haunted house at a hospital. But he talks a lot about the patients, patient care, and what happened here, and how they try to be sensitive to that. So this is Jim Werner on episode 61, What Are You Afraid Of? Horror and Paranormal Show at Pennhurst Asylum.
That fictional world that we've created, and they walk into our Mayflower building, and our Mayflower building is unthemed. Mm-hmm. There is no theme. There are no actors. There are no ghosts or goblins that are going to jump out and scare you. What Mayflower is a walk into the world that actually existed here. It's a walk into a place that ceased to exist in the late 80s. You get to speak with former employees. You get to learn about how life was here. Mm-hmm. And Pennhurst had problems. Pennhurst, the documents on the problems of this place are libraries you could fill. Mm-hmm. But the problems that were present at Pennhurst were present at all state-run institutions. Any state-run institution was at the whim of the budget. And if the budget is set at something, well, then you work within those confines. Mm-hmm. And that's where you end up with overpopulation and a poor patient-to-staff ratio. It's where you end up with things where the residents here, dollar per dollar value spent, is lower than some at a public zoo. You end up with these sort of ratios. When you build a facility like this, it opened in 1908, and it instantaneously was overpopulated because they didn't even know who was supposed to be here.
Right.
They would send anybody here, and one of the initial superintendents of this place said, "This is wrong. We can't put the feeble-minded with the epileptic. This is a mistake. We should never have been mixing these people." And then that trend continued, and overpopulation grew, and funding was lowered, and it just wasn't conducive to a successful environment for all the patients here. And people ask me, well, was there any good here? Well, yes, there was good here. I hear stories from former residents. I hear stories from the community surrounding this place talking about the different good things. And it took me a while to factor in, like, wow, all this bad stuff, the place got closed. What are they talking about? Good things. I don't understand. How can they both exist? And it dawned on me that the reason both could exist here was because of the type of patients that were here. You had patients that were high functioning. Mm-hmm. You had patients who ran this place. You had patients that worked jobs and basically had careers within the confines of a bubble that allowed them to exist without any sort of persecution from society. Mm-hmm. You have to remember, society put them here.
Yeah.
It wasn't a decision. It wasn't, oh, I'm going to put, hey, you there, come here. No, society placed these people here because society at the time said, well, we need to put you someplace where you can thrive mm-hmm. without messing with us. So once they were here, the high-functioning people, they thrived. They ran the industries here. They worked the laundry that served the area. They worked the farms. They were doing industry. They were making shoes. I mean, they lived a life here. They played softball against the local nonprofit teams mm-hmm. that came in and played. I've heard these stories, both from patients and from people that live around here, that have lived around here their whole lives. And then I say, this doesn't make sense. How can it be? How can all these atrocities, these horrible things happen? The Bill Baldini Expo, my God, these terrible things, but mm-hmm. yet I'm hearing these good things. How can they exist mutually? And then I realized that although the high needs patients, the people that were high functioning could thrive, the people that were low functioning, the people that couldn't get out of a bed or didn't mm-hmm. know how to speak, those are the people that suffered here.
Right.
The very ones that needed the most attention due to things like budgetary constraints and staffing, they didn't get the attention they needed. They didn't have the ratios. They didn't get the therapies. And more importantly, at the time, the therapies might not even have existed. The idea of just because this person now is unable to walk, at the time could have been conceived of, well, they'll never walk. So we're just going to put them in a bed that looks like a large crib, and that's where they're going to live their life. And there was no thought of therapies like occupational therapy and speech therapy, and they were kind of cast aside. And that's the real atrocity, but that atrocity existed across the country.
Oh, and for...
It was and for years, for decades and decades.
I'm reminded of Bethlehem Hospital, and places like that. So what you're saying is that, of course you had a functioning life here, but then you also had people that couldn't be helped with the resources at the time, and they just needed a place to keep them.
And they were warehoused. That's the true atrocity. The true atrocity of this place, and I believe the Bill Baldini Expo took... Now mind you, there was multiple news articles, paper news articles, about places like this for years before the Bill Baldini Expose, explaining how bad the situation was. But I believe it was the media of film that truly took your average person and put them here. I'm not just reading a story written by a reporter with a one or two still black or white photos. No, I'm hearing the sounds. I am watching the video, and it brought people here. And in that, the true value of the Bill Baldini Expo was that it awoke society to the idea that, wow, we can't do this anymore. This is horrible. I wouldn't want to live like that. And it awoke this idea that not only do these people not deserve to live like this, we cannot allow it. And then since that time, we as a society have made leaps and bounds to be more fair, more inclusive, more accepting, and also the scientific research, the medical research behind the idea of, oh, well, just because this person was born with this disability, it doesn't mean that disability defines them. And we can have them grow. And that's huge. And that, to me, is the real plaque on this place, is that bad things did exist. But this place's piece in that history changed how we as a people view those bad things. And it went from an ignorant acceptance to an active, we're fighting against it. And I think that transition happened. That was the Bill Baldini Expo, and that's where to me we really got as a society. No, we're going to take care of these people. It was huge, absolutely huge.
Mercy, a new horror medical thriller from author T. Fox Dunham, published by Bloodbound Books. Based on the author's horrific battle with a rare form of lymphoma that involved intense chemotherapy and radiation, Fox turns the horror of his experience into terror on the page.
William Saint is dying of cancer. On most days, death seems like a humane alternative to the treatment. Stricken with fever, William is rushed to Mercy, notorious as a place to send the sickest of the poor and uninsured to be forgotten, and finds the hospital in even worse condition than his previous visit.
Willie's memories faded. He grabbed his sack head of the scarecrow, picking at the exposed chicken wire to hold them in. However, the memories fell out of the holes in his face. They wormed and crawled from the leather flesh and the old clothing of the scarecrow, then squirmed and wiggled down his body.
The grounds are unkempt, the foundation is cracking, and like the wild mushrooms sprouting from the fissures of decay around it, something is growing inside the hospital. Something dark.
Fangoria gives Mercy 3.5 out of 4 skulls. Dunham has channeled his many brushes with the other side into the exquisitely rendered, lyrical, supernatural hospital thriller Mercy.
It's feeding on the sickness and sustaining itself on the staff, changing them, and now it wants Willie.
Come now, Mr. Saint. Just a little more of that sweet milk. So salty and so good. You won't miss it. And we ever do so like our delicacies here at Mercy Hospital.
Part medical horror, part supernatural suspense, Mercy is a hard-hitting fever dream of a novel. I enjoyed the hell out of it. Tim Wagner, author of The Way of All Flesh and Eat the Night. Available from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and bookstores everywhere in both print and digital versions.
Life is an addiction.
Let go. Let it all burn.
Caliburn Press, LLC is a Madison, Wisconsin-based publishing company owned and operated by Alan Ledden. Caliburn works with talented writers, artists, editors, and marketers throughout the United States, and you can find their books through their many imprints that include Damnation Books, Eternal Press, Malaferia Press, Ciento Sordida Publishing, and Spiro Publishing. Please visit their website at sites.google.com/site/Caliburn Press LLC/home, or Google Caliburn Press to check out their growing list of titles on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and any other place fine books are sold.
You're listening to the Electronic Media Collective Podcast Network. Yeah, it's a mouthful. For more great shows, visit electronicmediacollective.com.
Wow, Inflatable Arm Man's back, and he's leading an exercise. Come hang out with us. Come on. Inflatable Arm Guy. Yeah, come on. Here. For the camera. No, okay. All right. Okay. I don't think they wanted to put him. He doesn't seem very smart, so they didn't put him in the attraction.
I don't know if he works here, or if he's just some dude that showed up in his costume.
Like us.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, get the camera, dude. Inflatable Arm Guy, we'll bring him over. But, he's dancing with everybody. And, yeah. So I'm the Raven. Nevermore. We're back, by the way. That was a cool interview with Jim.
That was great.
We got part 2 coming up. He's Wacky Inflatable Arm Man. So, Phil.
Yes, Fox.
Halloween's here. Coming up in a few weeks.
Thankfully.
I know. I'm really looking forward to it. Okay, let's see if we can get him over to the camera. Mr. Inflatable Arm Man, come on over to the camera.
Go over.
Come behind us and do your little dance. Just careful the cords. Yeah. Here he comes, Inflatable Arm Guy. The camera's right there in front of me.
There's the camera right there.
Inflatable Arm Guy.
Do your thing in front of the camera.
Yay! Yay! Wow, the novelty's worn off. All right. Okay, I think he just tried to attack me. Thank you, Inflatable Arm Man.
Thank you.
That was an Inflatable Arm Man.
Wacky Inflatable Arm Man.
Wacky Inflatable Arm Man. Come down to Wacko.
So what else are you doing to get in the spirit of Halloween this year?
Well, I'll be baking.
Okay, yeah.
I'll be doing pumpkin spice scones.
Scones?
Oh, God, they're so good, the pumpkin scones. And I do the icing drizzle on top.
Right.
That's a lot of fun. And I also will be baking these soft, large pumpkin chocolate chip cookies that they used to serve at Deborah's.
Oh.
And Allison loves them. I make them very soft. Yeah, I know.
And you make great pumpkin things.
Thank you. Yes. But you can only do it, in October.
That's when it starts, right?
Yeah.
That's when you usually start to, and then you go throughout the whole holiday.
Yeah, and then I'll do some pumpkin, but I'll also go to cranberry.
Yeah.
So.
And your Christmas things are good, too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I haven't been doing too much baking or cooking lately. But,
with the summer and everything.
Right.
Usually, at least I've noticed, we tend to do it this time of year.
It gets cold out.
Yeah.
It gets cold. Right. And it gets cold. It's just too hard to bake in the summer.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Pennhurst just has such a rich history and a history of abuse. I mean, it's been open since November of 1908. So, and I think it closed its doors in 1986. So, by the mid-1960s, it had already been open for 50 years. And, it wasn't until around that time that the media started catching wind of the neglect and the abuse. So, I mean, we really have some shocking things here. So, after 2 decades of litigation, Pennhurst finally closed the doors. The crazy thing is that it's hard to believe, but there were times in which there were over 10,000 housed at the same time under these terrible conditions. And, people, speculate whether, this torture, this abuse was intentional, but the problem is this. They just didn't have the money to adequately staff the institution. So a lot of these people were just kind of thrown by the wayside. And, I mean, what is the saying? From womb to tomb. And a lot of these patients, they spent their entire lives in Pennhurst. I mean, they would get dropped off. If they were mentally challenged or if they had a disability, they would just get dropped off and they would be neglected. And the parents of these unfortunate victims were encouraged not to come and visit, stating that it would be too difficult for them to see them in this condition. And I mean, you could argue that the reason they were telling them this is so they wouldn't see, the horror that was going on under this roof, to basically avoid liability, and so it wouldn't surface on a national scale. And you could argue that years of this abuse and just these unfortunate people dying under these terrible conditions has spawned a lot of activity here at Pennhurst. One of such is a girl named Emily, a 13-year-old girl who has the mental capability of a 5-year-old. She enjoys various dolls, stuffed animals on her bed, and she seems to prefer females and enjoys nursery rhymes. And Timothy Smith, who is also president and CEO of the Pennhurst Paranormal Association, uses the enticing tagline, "They lived here, they died here, and are still here." Now, Pennhurst, it's a big place. They have many buildings, 8 buildings to be exact. The Quaker building, where numerous shadows manifest and dissipate at will. People have been reported having their hair pulled, sightings of fog and mist, doors and rocking chairs moving by themselves. The Limerick building also, apparitions of women in old-style nurse uniforms have been observed there. We have the Devon building. Multiple EVPs have been recorded there. The Mayflower building. Shadow people have been seen multiple times. The Tinicum building, where investigators have all reported having their legs touched. That's pretty terrifying. We also have the Philadelphia building, where loud sounds and voices are heard coming from the building. The administration building, which we are right in front of. It's right there. Multiple voices, EVPs from there. The Hershey building, voices have been heard on the 3rd floor. So, I mean, these are, every building seems to be somewhat haunted or has a level of activity in it. And we are pretty much at the heart of all this activity. And can you really wonder why? When you had doctors working here with names like Dr. Fear. I mean, this guy, that was his real name. That wasn't a nickname. His real last name was Fear. I've actually never heard that before, but hey, whatever. Patients had died or gone missing under his watch, though, and their bodies were never accounted for. It was thought that, he might have buried them somewhere, maybe around the grounds or something like that. And when he's been asked during investigations, paranormal investigations, what happened to these missing bodies, he said, "I burnt them." And he followed that up by some really creepy, low, eerie laughter. "I burnt them, ha ha ha." I guess when you're dead, such as the case of Dr. Fear, you're not afraid of any kind of judicial system or repercussions or prisons. They can't keep you. So this is something he probably would not have admitted to during his lifetime, but I guess he figures, I have nothing to lose now. I'm already dead, and they can't do a darn thing to me.
We have a great story from Daniel Braum. It's called A Man's Guide to Costumes and the Most Common Ways to Get Arrested. It appears in his collection. It's not an anthology. A collection, he told me this, is one an individual author has several of his stories published, called The Wish Mechanics, Stories of the Strange and Fantastic. And we're playing part 1. It's a sort of Halloween-based story tonight on What Are You Afraid Of? Horror and Paranormal Show on Bear X Radio on Friday nights at 9 p.m. and also on EMC Network and available on all podcast services. And you can find out our information and ghost stories at www.whatareyoufraidofpodcast.com to check out for all of our previous 60 shows, 2 years now, and our archive of ghost stories plus information about the events where we'll be appearing.
That's right.
On our countdown to Halloween. This is part 1 of A Man's Guide to Costumes and the Most Common Ways to Get Arrested from The Wish Mechanics from Daniel Braum.
A Man's Guide to Costumes and the Most Common Ways to Get Arrested. 1. Hotel room parties in Las Vegas. The room full of grown-ups in costumes were carrying on like children, just like Ed had expected the day after Halloween to be like. His brother was the worst offender. "I know why you're here," a woman Ed didn't know said to him. "You're here to take off your costume." He didn't know anyone in this god-forsaken room party, except for his brother Oscar. That was the point, to break out of the post-prison blues, Oscar had said. "I'm not wearing a costume," Ed said. He wore what he always wore since getting out, black faded jeans, motorcycle boots, different shirt though, thin cotton and short sleeves for the Las Vegas heat. The woman looked at him as if she didn't believe him, and as if he was indeed wearing some outlandish rubber mask and costume. Her face was painted to look like a sugar skull. Her black shirt with bones on it exposed the bottom of her concave belly, and skin the color of coffee with milk. A tattoo of a scythe marked her upper thigh. Skirt much too short. Ink much too sharp, much too bright. Either new or fake. "Like my costume?" Oscar tapped the silver milk bowl he wore around his neck on a chain. "I'm milk. Here, kitty kitty." He looked ridiculous in his white t-shirt and white sweatpants, but he was right. There were at least 4 women dressed as black cats, all of them looking fine. The woman standing next to Miss Sugarskull looking particularly fine, all in tight black clothes hugging her slender body. She smiled at Oscar, she swayed, and mouthed song lyrics of the bass-heavy tune, cranking from the little speaker on the desk with the hard liquor. The out-of-date hotel suite was packed with guests holding red plastic cups. Over-tipping the flamingo's monkey-suited bellhop made Oscar feel like a big man. Ed didn't blame him for wanting to take him to a party, now that he was out. Ed recognized the bellhop's jailhouse ink, and knew he would have told them where the parties were, anyway. The 2 men had seen something in each other. Was it the telltale costume of an ex-con, the cloud that follows those who have known hardship, or just a recognition they were different than all the soft people surrounding them? "Why are you here?" Ed asked Miss Sugarskull. "I'm here for you, Eduardo," she said. He hadn't heard a woman speak his name since Francisca. Before he could ask the woman what she meant, her cat-suited friend screeched and grabbed Oscar. "Ooh, leche con azúcar, baila conmigo," Catwoman said. "What?" Oscar said with a big goofy smile. "What's she saying? What's she saying, Ed?" Dance with me, cat-suited woman said. "I'm here with her, but I'm not here for your brother." When she smiled, one cheek rose higher than the other, and she wore too much makeup. Her eyes sparkled against the fluorescent pink glare coming through the window from the casino across the street. Ed knew she was the kind of girl that was dangerous. Dangerous for Oscar. She'd break his heart, and Oscar might be stupid enough to let her. "Let's do this. You here to dance?" Oscar asked. "I'm here to party," cat-suited woman said. "My brother Ed's here to party. Come on, Ed, be friendly. Dance with us." "I don't dance," Ed said. "Don't worry. He's not a psycho ex-con despite his clever disguise," Oscar said. "He's a teddy bear." Cat-suited woman took Oscar by the hand and led him into the crowd of sexy nurses, cat-suit zombies, and male stripper wannabes. Miss Sugarskull reached for Ed's hand. "I mean it. I don't dance," Ed said. "I'm just the milk's older brother." The woman leaned in and whispered, "I know who you are." Her black t-shirt with the skeleton on it clung to her body. Raised glitter outlined the bones. White makeup covered her face. Little red roses surrounded her blackened eyes. A simple spiderweb adorned her forehead, and neat stitches extended her mouth to her cheeks. Her breath felt cool on his face. A hint of something earthy and sweet lingered beneath the burnt chemical scent of her face makeup. "You really know who I am?" Ed asked. "So tell. Who am I?" Across the room, Oscar and catsuited woman danced in the costumed crowd. His hands traced the jaguar spot tattoos on her shoulder. The room smelled like decades of smoke and alcohol-laced sweat. "You're a man who doesn't want to be here," Miss Sugarskull said. "Your brother convinced you to come, to party. So you did. But you're here for something else. Your brother promised you'd be back in time to check in with your PO in the morning. So you listened." Ed's instinct screamed danger, but he knew she wasn't a cop. Cops didn't smell like a church during a funeral. "So what is it I'm here for?" Ed asked. "I'll show you. I'm getting my sister and your brother, and I'll show you." Before Ed could question her, a blonde woman with black-framed glasses dressed as a cop pushed through the door. She confidently walked on 2 tall, spiked heels and wore a square hat. Silver handcuffs hung off the belt circling her black leather pants. Ed noticed the ring on her fingers sparkling, even in the dim light, and the hint of white powder under her nose. "Hey there, if I don't get a beer soon, I'm going to have to arrest someone," the sexy cop said. "In the bathroom," Ed said. The sexy cop stepped closer. Too close. He could feel the heat of her body. "Help a lady out?" she said. "How about you get me one, and I think about not giving you a ticket." Ed moved away from her and hurried into the bathroom. She had been close enough to touch. The smell of her breath, her warmth, all intoxicating. For a heartbeat, he had forgotten Francisca. Vegas was proving dangerous. Parties, one of the most common ways to get arrested. Trouble, capital T. Ed reached into the bathtub to grab a bottle, grateful for the chill from the icy water. The door shut behind him. The sexy cop leaned against it, unbuttoning her shirt. "Nice ring," Ed said. "Open the door. I don't want any trouble." "It's Halloween. In Vegas." She unbuttoned the last button, revealing a pink bra with a small bag of cocaine tucked inside one cup. "Halloween was yesterday, but points for partying hard. Just open the door. I don't mess around with other people's old ladies." Her confused expression changed to resignation. "Fine, but you're not leaving without doing a line with me." The door burst open. A short, stocky guy with muscles stretching his khaki shorts and polo shirt barreled in, looking like he was having a heart attack. "What the fuck, Carrie?" he said. "Easy, man," Ed said. "I'm just grabbing a beer." "Get the fuck away from my wife." He rushed past his bra-clad wife and pushed Ed. Ed staggered and fell onto the toilet. He tried to stand, but the guy was on him. Strong hands closed around Ed's neck and squeezed. Ed punched the guy's back. He planted his feet and tried to push up. Everything was blurring and getting dark. He reached for something, anything. His left hand plunged into the ice-filled bathtub. His fingers closed around a bottle, and he swung it up. The crash was unreal, like a sound effect, but the hiss and smell of hops and foam was as real as could be. The guy staggered back with his hands over his face. Blood poured from between his fingers. Onlookers from the party pulled the wailing man out of the bathroom. A jagged shard of the broken bottle stuck out of his right cheek. Miss Sugarskull rushed into the bathroom, Oscar and Catsuited Woman right behind her. "Do something," Catsuited Woman said. "No," Miss Sugarskull said. "Everyone sees. It's going to ruin the party." "What?" Oscar said. "What's she going to do? You're okay?" "We're not here to party," Miss Sugarskull said. "Let's go." Ed rubbed his neck. Cell phones were out, dialing and snapping photos. "She's right," Ed said. "We gotta get out of here." She was right. No way he was going back in over Oscar's plan to break him out of the same old, same old. It took everything he had to keep his head down and nose clean in there. He followed his brother and the girls out of the party and down the long winding hall to the elevator. After what seemed like an eternal wait, the car came and they entered. Miss Sugarskull pushed the G button. "This is bad, Ed. Your PO's gonna flip," Oscar said. "It's gonna be alright," cat-suited woman said. "Don't kill the buzz. We're just moving the party." The elevator stopped at the ground level, and they exited to the concrete parking garage beneath the casino. Ed sat behind the wheel. "No," Miss Sugarskull said. "You're too drunk." "Right," Ed said. He switched seats with Oscar. "Where to?" Oscar asked. "Just get out of here," Ed said. "Then home." Oscar put the car in reverse, spun the wheels, and cruised out of the exit, taking them away from the casino and the shitstorm up in the suite.
My name is Greg Bakken. I'm a writer, a producer, and a paranormal investigator. My favorite way of communicating with spirits is through using the spirit box, also known as a ghost box. I invite you to listen to me every Wednesday at 10 p.m. Central for interviews with people in the paranormal community and beyond. Plus, I will also include as much of my spirit box evidence as I can during my show.
My name is Greg. Can you say Greg? Can you say Jeff? Greg. Jeff.
Join me every Wednesday at 10 p.m. Central Time for Minnesota Ghost Box, only on Para-X Radio.
And we are back here at Pennhurst Asylum.
Episode 61.
Episode 61. Can you believe it's been 61 episodes?
I know. God, we really stayed in it.
Can you imagine when we say it's been 161 episodes?
That'll happen one day.
I know.
Yeah. Who knows? We'll probably have our own. We'll probably be on television. Anyway, it's funny because we got killed by clowns, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did.
That's why I hate them so.
Yeah, but apparently somebody else did too.
Someone else got killed by clowns?
We've got clown news. Cue that wonderful jingle.
Clown news.
Dun, 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 dun. Bill always does that when he loves the clown news. Yeah, clown news. Love that. Anyway, so I saw this like a few weeks ago. Florida authorities have arrested a woman in Virginia that was called the Clown Murderers. Can you believe this? Yeah. And this is such a weird case that happened because it went on for decades without being solved. Her name was Sheila Keene Warren, 55. She was indicted on first-degree murder with a firearm charge for the killing of Marlene Warren. Now, what happened was she was dating this guy, this married guy, and they wanted to get married, so she decided to go kill her. So she knocked on their door, dressed as a clown with balloons, claimed to be lost or something, and then pulled out a gun and killed her in cold blood.
Oh my god.
Did you hear about this?
I did not hear about this.
Yeah, it happened. She killed her in cold blood, and nobody could identify her. And the case went on for 20 or 30 years, and finally they got enough evidence together. She married the guy.
Oh god.
Would you just ask him for trouble?
Jeez.
She killed his wife and then married the guy. And that freaks me out because, what if she gets tired of him then?
Right.
Is a clown going to be knocking at their door? Bang!
Yeah.
2 clown murders in Virginia.
Right.
But that's what happened over, and that's our, that's our clown news. By the way, that was clown news. Thank you, everyone. Clown news. I found a great new band called the Zombie Dandies. And we've got one of their songs on the show tonight. We'd like to do our Halloween stuff. But it's called It's Halloween Again. And it is Halloween again.
It is Halloween again.
And we'll play that for you now.
your source for everything paranormal. Para X.
The Zombie Dandies are a musical project from Normandy, France. The story of the group started in 2011 when two bored ghouls, Marty Dandy and K1000, an unlikely pairing of ideas, started to come together and create a sort of giant metal meets garage rock musical project. And you can find them at zombiedandies.bandcamp.com album. But they put out some great Halloween stuff, and that was the Zombie Dandies. Yeah, the good stuff.
I love it. The Zombie Dandies.
And we had a great horror story from Daniel Braum, Part 1. And let me tell you a little bit about Daniel. Fiction has been classified as fantasy, science fiction, and horror. He basically considers himself a fiction guy. He writes a lot like Ray Bradbury. You know, so it's really good. He was a reader at Ellen Ditlow and Gavin J. Grant's fantastic fiction reading series in the New York KGB Bar, and he's been a guest on Jim Freud's long-running Hour of the Wolf radio show. He lives in Long Island, New York, and he's just a great author. Yeah. And we will be working with him a lot in the future. That's awesome. Yeah. So, thank you so much, Daniel. Anyway, you can find the book on Amazon.com, and of course his website is www.danielbraum.com.
Nice. I'll check that out.
Yeah. So, we're at Pennhurst. You can hear it in the background.
Oh, yeah.
That's actually the undead singing. You know. We want to thank Jim Werner for letting us come out tonight. We'll be back up next week to record again and to talk to people. I'll be collecting some ghost stories. And we collected a ghost story tonight from a very interesting couple, and I'll play that for you now real quick. Well, I'm T. Fox Dunham, host of What Are You Afraid of Horror and Paranormal Show. We're Philadelphia's home for horror. We are on Para X Radio, EMC Podcast Network, and all podcast networks and services, including iHeart, Google Play, and, you know, all of them. And we are here tonight at Pennhurst talking to some people coming by, and your name is?
Aubrey.
Aubrey, okay. And, sir, do you want to go on the record and tell us your name?
Sure. My name is Sean.
Okay, hello, Sean and Aubrey. So, did you enjoy the site tonight?
Yes.
Awesome. Here comes my wife. My wife believes in ghosts, too, but she doesn't really experience them, you know, like you. But, alright, so, tell us about what's going on in your house right now.
There is a part of my room that is inaccessible that contains a small door to a little cubby space in the wall.
Right, okay.
And it's currently blocked off by my closet, totes, and a table. So you can't get to it without moving a whole bunch of stuff around.
Right, okay.
Which is kind of like an hour of work, so I don't do it. And every so often I'll see that the door is either open, like far open, or it's latched closed again.
Okay.
And it's different kind of stages of being open.
Right.
But obviously I'm not doing that, and nobody else is because my room is trashed.
So you think you attract spirits then, or at least you have a perception to them when you open your mind. What was it like for you growing up with spirits?
It just kind of seemed normal until people were like, what are you talking about?
Do you have any particular incidents that happened to you as a kid that you remember the most strongest?
The strongest one is the one with the doll.
Oh, tell us about the doll.
And it was this doll that was like a little angel doll. You push its hands together and it'll say a little prayer.
Okay.
And I was hanging out with my friend, and my friend will also say that the story happened because she was there. And we were pushing it over and over again because I had just stolen it from my sister.
Yeah.
And so we were making it say the rounds of prayers that it does over and over and over again. And then it says something about demons and then goes back to the prayers.
Oh my
word. And we're like, okay, I guess we're done with that. Maybe the batteries are dying.
Yeah, I guess when batteries die, they become possessed by demons.
We didn't know. We were like second grade.
You know,
so we just stopped playing with it. And we're like, that happened, I guess.
Yeah.
And then it happened again about a year later.
With the doll?
With the same doll, because I guess we didn't learn the first time.
Right.
And I have not looked at that doll since.
So where's the doll now?
It is currently in my closet.
Hiding in the closet.
Yes.
Think it has anything to do with the cubby hole opening up?
It's a different closet, but it might. I don't know.
So kind of like a central kind of like a central demonic object, a spiritual object drawing an activity. Great little ghost story.
That was cool.
Yeah, I mean, I collected it here from somebody live. And it's a busy night. They got a lot of people out here.
That's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Collect it live, right here.
That's what I did. I put on the mic. Yeah, absolutely. You guys, a lot of people talk about ghost stories. You know, I talked to a lot of the staff here for a while. And there seem to be two kind of ghosts that frequent Pennhurst. You have the vindictive ones, and then you have the ones that are desperate for human contact.
Right.
I was talking to a gentleman that was leading us on the VIP tour of the incredible attractions, and he said he was up in one of the rooms, in, I think it was the Mayflower building or the Quaker building you were saying, and it was pretty high up in the high room, and he felt a presence come up behind him, and then all of a sudden, there was no one in the room. They always say there was no one in the room or in the building. That's how they start out. But somebody was actually trying to push him out the window, and he was struggling with it, and there was nobody in the room. Freaky, huh?
Yeah, I wouldn't like that.
But other people have talked about how they come up and play with your hair or hold your shoulder, and it's not vindictive. It's a lot of the patients here were desperate for any human contact. They would be chained to the bed or thrown in a room where you're not allowed human contact. So it seems a lot of the ghosts reach out and try to hold you. But we got some exciting things coming up for those listening. We got Katrina Weidman coming on October 20th. We'll be talking to her on Monday. And Lloyd Kaufman of Trauma Entertainment. He did Toxie.
Oh, we did Toxic Avenger.
Toxic Avenger, yeah.
Poltergeist.
Duke Nukem High School.
That's Nukem High.
Yeah, what was it that?
That's
Okay.
Nukem High.
Yeah, so great stuff.
Yeah.
Coming on the show, all part of our countdown to Halloween 2017 on What Are You Afraid of? Horror and Paranormal Show on ParaX Radio at 9, EMC Network, and on all major podcast services. And find us at www.whatareyouafraidofpodcast.com. Well, we're kind of winding up tonight.
Yeah.
You know, we've been hanging out, talking to people, collecting ghost stories, seeing the site. Pennhurst is incredible. Go to the...
More people are...
It's a lot more people. They really... I think they've gone through the rooms and now they're hanging out back.
Yeah, that's what happened.
You know, the buildings look incredible. The sites are incredible. We'll have pictures up on the website. We'll have links. Get your tickets. Come on up. They're open for a couple of weekends in October and I think one in November. And they just put on such a great show here. They've got makeup artists. It's a lot of actors. And the actors don't break their roles.
No, they don't.
They get that makeup on. They're in the role. You know.
You can do or say whatever you want to them. They will not break it.
Right, they will not break it. And, yeah, I do too.
Puts you in the middle of it.
And, you know, I was going through and they were grabbing, they touch you here.
Yeah, they do.
They weren't really doing that for a while. They touch you here. They grab you, they pull you, they put you up against the wall, they take your wallet, this is all part of the show, right? They're going to give me that back.
Yeah.
But that actually wasn't here, it was outside the parking lot. I assume it was.
They didn't have makeup on.
No, they didn't really have makeup on.
Just street clothes.
Yeah, I mean, this happens to me every year. It's the same guy.
Still missing,
I'm still waiting for my wallet.
You might be waiting a while.
Well, you know, I don't like to ruin good fun. But, you know. But this has been What Are You Afraid of? Over in Pennhurst. We are episode 61. We're working on a zombie, like, end-of-the-world stoner cereal. Not the kind you eat, but tentatively it's being called Fluffy and Pete. Fluffy and Pete survive the zombie apocalypse. And David Walton has done us a little theme song, and it's about Pete, who's very lovelorn, and his good friend Fluffy, who's a stoner.
Nice.
But we'll be working on those scripts.
You know what, though? That was a cereal, I would eat it.
Actually, yeah, Fluffy and Pete survived the cereal. Well, Phil, thanks for coming out.
Oh, yeah, Fox.
I love your outfit. We'll get a picture, and we will be back next week with our extra special long content. But we will see you, everybody, on episode 62. Also, Pennhurst Asylum. We'll figure out a name.
That's right.
Pennhurst Schools or something like that. And then we'll be back on with Katrina Weidman and then Lloyd Kaufman, and we'll see about doing our Halloween special.
T. Fox Dunham lives in Philadelphia with his wife Allison. He's a lymphoma survivor, cancer patient, modern bard and historian. His first book, The Street Martyr, was published by Gutter Book. A major motion picture based on the book is being produced by Throughline Films. Destroying the Tangible Illusion of Reality or Searching for Andy Kaufman, a book about what it's like to be dying of cancer, was recently released from Perpetual Motion Machine Publishing, and Fox has a story in the Stargate anthology, Points of Origin, from MGM and Fandemonium Books. Mercy was recently released by Bloodbound Books. Fox is an active member of the Harvard Association. He's been published in hundreds of short stories and articles, and his motto is Wrecking Civilization, one story at a time.
Phil Thomas resides in the suburbs of Philadelphia and is an author and filmmaker. His screenplays have been produced into feature films such as False Face and Always from Darkness that are available in major retailers such as Best Buy and Target, as well as availability on Netflix and Amazon On Demand.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.